Mommy, can I have this one, please? She was holding it up with both hands. A Barbie in a purple dress, sparkly shoes, hair the color of honey. My daughter's eyes were so big, so hopeful. And all I could see was the price tag. $47.99. I had $23 in my checking account. Payday was 6 days away. And we still needed milk, bread, and enough gas to get me to work for the rest of the week. Baby, let's look at some other things, okay? But Mommy, this is the one. This is the one Madison has. She brings it to school every day and she never lets anyone play with it, and if I had one too. Maya, not today. Her face crumpled. Not dramatically, not with a tantrum. Just that quiet devastation that's worse than screaming. The kind that says she's learning something she shouldn't have to learn yet. That wanting doesn't mean having. That love can't always fix things. That Mommy isn't magic. I knelt down, took the Barbie from her hands, put it back on the shelf. I'm sorry, baby. Maybe for your birthday, okay? Your birthday is coming up. That's not for a long time. 3 months isn't that long. It feels long. She didn't argue, didn't cry, just took my hand and walked beside me toward the exit. And that quiet acceptance broke me more than any tantrum ever could. Let me tell you who I am. My name is Denise. I'm 34 years old. Single mother. I work as a cashier at a grocery store 40 hours a week, and I clean offices 3 nights a week after Maya goes to bed. My neighbor watches her for $20 a night, which is more than I can afford but less than anyone else charges. I have an associate's degree I never finished. I have $4,200 in credit card debt I'll probably never pay off. And I have a daughter who deserves everything I can't give her. We weren't always like this. 5 years ago, I was married. We had a house, 2 cars, the kind of life that looks normal from the outside. Then Marcus left, took everything he could carry, and disappeared to another state with a woman I'd never heard of. No forwarding address, no child support, no explanation. Just gone. The house went into foreclosure. The cars got repossessed. I moved us into a 1-bedroom apartment where the heat works about half the time, and the neighbors fight loud enough to shake the walls. But it's ours. And we're together. And that's supposed to be enough. But sometimes, standing in a toy store, watching your daughter put back the one thing she wants most in the world, it doesn't feel like enough. It feels like failure. We left the store. I was holding Maya's hand, walking toward our car, a 2009 Honda with a cracked windshield and a prayer where the transmission should be. And that's when I heard the voice. Excuse me. I turned around. A woman, maybe late 50s, well-dressed but not flashy, gray hair pulled back, kind eyes. I'm sorry to bother you, she said, but I couldn't help noticing in the store your daughter wanted that doll. My defenses went up immediately. We're fine, thank you. I didn't mean to. I said we're fine. She stopped, and I saw something in her face that wasn't pity. It was recognition. I know that look, she said quietly. I wore it for 15 years. I didn't respond. I raised 3 kids on a cashier's salary. I know what it's like to do math in your head while your child is asking for something. I know what it's like to say no when everything in you wants to say yes. Maya was looking up at me. I didn't know what to say. Please, the woman said, let me buy her the doll, not out of pity, out of remembering. I should have said no. Every instinct told me to say no. To protect my pride. To teach Maya that we don't take handouts. To prove that I could handle this on my own. But I looked at my daughter. At her quiet face. At the hope she was trying to hide, because she'd learned that hope leads to disappointment. And I couldn't say no. Okay, I whispered. Thank you. We went back inside. The woman bought the Barbie. Maya clutched it to her chest like it was made of gold. And when she looked up at the woman, she said something that made my heart crack open. "Thank you for helping my mommy." The woman smiled, touched Maya's cheek, and handed me a business card. "If you ever need anything," she said, "call this number." I looked at the card. Simple, white, just a name and a phone number. Alina Simmons. No title, no company, nothing else. "Thank you," I said again. "You didn't have to." "I know, that's why I wanted to." And she walked away. I didn't think about the card again for 3 weeks. Life happened. Work happened. The transmission finally gave out, and I spent $600 I didn't have getting it barely running again. Maya got a cold that turned into an ear infection that turned into a $200 doctor's visit, plus $45 in medication. And somewhere in the chaos, that business card ended up in a drawer with old receipts and expired coupons. Forgotten. Until the letter came. It arrived on a Tuesday. Addressed to me, official-looking envelope. Return address, Simmons Family Foundation. I opened it, expecting a donation request, some kind of mailing list I'd accidentally ended up on. But it wasn't a request. It was an invitation. "Dear Ms. Denise Carter, you have been selected for the Simmons Foundation's Fresh Start program, which provides career development, educational support, and financial assistance to single mothers in our community. Your application has been reviewed and approved. A representative will contact you within 48 hours to discuss next steps. Congratulations." I read it 3 times. Then I called the number. Because I hadn't applied for anything. "Simmons Foundation, how may I direct your call?" "My name is Denise Carter. I received a letter about a program, but I never applied." "One moment, Ms. Carter." Silence. Then a voice I recognized. "Denise, I'm so glad you called." "Alina." The woman from the toy store. "What is this?" I asked. "I didn't apply for anything, you can't just—" "I know, I apologize for the confusion. The letter is real, the program is real. But you're right, you didn't apply. I submitted your name myself." "Why?" "Because I saw something that day, in that store, something that reminded me of who I used to be." I was silent. "Denise, may I tell you a story?" "I don't understand what's happening." "Please, just a few minutes. Then you can decide what you want to do." She told me. 30 years ago, Alina Simmons was a single mother with 2 kids and a minimum wage job. No family support, no safety net, no hope on the horizon. She worked days, nights, weekends, took classes when she could, failed more times than she succeeded. But she kept going. And eventually, she built a small business. Then a bigger one. Then she sold it for an amount that changed her family's future forever. "I'm not telling you this to brag," she said. "I'm telling you because I remember the moment I almost gave up. It was in a store, just like the one where we met. My daughter wanted a toy I couldn't afford, and I felt like the worst mother in the world." She paused. "Someone helped me that day, a stranger. She didn't just buy the toy, she gave me her card. Said she ran a program for women like me, and that program changed my life. Gave me skills, connections, the confidence to believe I could be more than my circumstances. And now you run it," I said. "Now I run it, and every time I see a mother in that moment of quiet heartbreak, I think of myself, and I try to do what was done for me." I didn't know what to say. The weight of it was too much. "The program isn't charity," Alina continued. "It's work, hard work. You'll take classes, build skills, interview for positions at companies in our network. If you qualify, we'll help with childcare, transportation, even housing if needed." "Why me? There must be thousands of mothers who need this more than I do." "Maybe, but I don't know them. I know you. I saw you in that store and I saw myself. That's enough." I was crying now. Silently. On the phone with a woman I'd met once, hearing her offer me a rope I didn't know I was drowning for. "What do you say?" Alina asked. "Will you let me help?" I said yes. The next 6 months were the hardest of my life, but also the most transformative. The program started with assessments. Skills, education, interests. I'd never finished my associate's degree, so they helped me complete it. Online classes, flexible schedule, all expenses covered. I'd always been good with numbers, so they trained me in bookkeeping and basic accounting. I'd never had anyone believe I could be more than a cashier, so they surrounded me with women who'd been where I was and made it somewhere else. The program wasn't easy. There were nights I wanted to quit. Nights I fell asleep at my laptop and woke up with my face on the keyboard. Nights I cried in the bathroom so Maya wouldn't hear. But I kept going. Because for the first time in years, I could see a future that looked different. 9 months after that day in the toy store, I got a job. Accounts coordinator at a small but growing company. Salary, benefits, room to advance. They offered me the position on a Wednesday. I cried in my car for 20 minutes before I could drive home. Maya was at my neighbor's apartment when I got back. I picked her up, held her so tight she complained. "Mommy, what's wrong?" "Nothing, baby. Nothing's wrong. Mommy's just happy." "Why?" "Because things are going to be different now." 6 months later, we moved. A 2-bedroom apartment, safe neighborhood, heat that works every day. Maya has her own room for the first time in her life. She decorated it with drawings and posters and that same Barbie, the one from the toy store, sitting on her nightstand like a trophy. I think about Alina every day. Not just because she changed my life, but because of how she changed it. She didn't just hand me money. She didn't just solve my problems. She gave me tools, structure, a community of women who understood. She treated me like someone with potential, not someone to be pitied. And that made all the difference. Because here's what I've learned. Charity can be kind, but dignity is better. Giving someone a fish keeps them alive today. But teaching them to fish and believing they can learn changes everything. I met Alina for coffee last month. The first time we'd seen each other in person since that day at the toy store. She looked the same, calm, kind, that recognition still in her eyes. "How are you?" she asked. "Better, so much better." "And Maya?" "She's thriving, top of her class, she wants to be a doctor." Alina smiled. "She'll do it, she has you." I didn't know how to thank her. Words felt too small. But I tried. "You changed my life. You know that, right? Everything I have now is because you saw me in a store and decided I was worth helping." "No," Alina said. "Everything you have now is because you decided you were worth fighting for. I just opened a door, you walked through it." We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said something that stayed with me ever since. "Denise, do you know why I do this? Why I spend my time and money on programs like this when I could be retired on a beach somewhere? Because someone did it for you. That's part of it, but there's something else." She leaned forward. "I do it because I know the truth about poverty. It's not a character flaw. It's not a lack of effort. It's a lack of opportunity, a lack of access, a lack of people who believe in you when you can't believe in yourself." She paused. "When I help a woman like you, I'm not being generous. I'm being accurate. I'm seeing what's actually there instead of what the world tells me to see. And what's actually there is someone who just needs a chance." I've thought about that conversation every day since. About accuracy. About seeing what's really there. Because the world looked at me and saw a struggling single mother. A cashier, a statistic, someone to step over. But Alina saw potential. She saw someone who was working harder than most people could imagine. She saw someone who just needed a door to open. And she opened it. I'm not special. That's the thing people need to understand. I'm not exceptionally talented. I'm not extraordinarily lucky. I'm just a woman who was given a chance. And I took it. There are millions of women like me. working double shifts, skipping meals, doing impossible math every week just to keep the lights on. They're not asking for handouts. They're asking for opportunities, for someone to see them, for someone to believe. Most of them will never meet an leaner. Most of them will keep fighting alone. And some of them will lose. Not because they weren't strong enough, but because strength alone isn't always sufficient. Sometimes you need help. And sometimes the help doesn't come. I got lucky. I was in the right store at the right time, with the right person watching. But luck isn't a system. Luck isn't justice. And we can't build a society on the hope that strangers will happen to be kind. That's what haunts me now. Not my past. My responsibility. Because I'm not struggling anymore. I'm not rich, I'm not powerful. But I'm stable. And stable means something. I've started volunteering with the Simmons Foundation. 2 nights a week after work. I mentor women who are where I was. I listen to their stories. I help them with resumes. I tell them that I was them not that long ago and that things can change. Sometimes they believe me. Sometimes they don't. But I keep showing up. Because that's what a leaner taught me. You don't help people because it's easy. You help people because you remember. Because you see yourself in their eyes. Because grace isn't something you receive once, it's something you pass on. Maya's 9 now. She still has that Barbie. Still sleeps with it sometimes, even though she says she's too old. And last week, she asked me a question that made me cry. Mommy, remember the lady who bought me this? I remember. Why did she do that? She didn't even know us. I thought about it. How to explain generosity to a child. How to explain that sometimes people see us, really see us, even when we're invisible to everyone else. She did it because she remembered, I said. She remembered what it was like to be where we were, and she wanted to help. Will I remember? What do you mean? When I'm older, when I have money, will I remember what it was like to not have things? I looked at my daughter, at her serious face, at the woman she's becoming. I hope so, baby. I hope you always remember, because the remembering is what makes us kind. She nodded, put the Barbie on her shelf, and went to do her homework. That's the legacy. Not the money. Not the job. The remembering. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're carrying tonight. But I know this. If you're struggling, if you're doing the impossible math, if you're saying no when you want to say yes, if you're holding it together with tape and prayer, you're not alone. And it won't always be this hard. I can't promise a stranger will show up in a toy store. I can't promise a CEO will hand you a card. But I can promise that change is possible. That you're stronger than you think. That the struggle doesn't define you. What you do with it does. And if you ever get the chance to help someone else, take it. Not because you have to, but because you remember what it was like. That's how it spreads. One person at a time. One moment of seeing at a time. One door held open at a time. I walked into a toy store, unable to afford a $48 doll. 3 years later, I'm stable. I'm growing. I'm passing it on. Not because of luck. Because someone chose to see me. Who are you choosing to see? Who's standing next to you, invisible, waiting for someone to notice? What would it cost you to be their leaner? Maybe nothing. Maybe just a moment of attention. A kind word. A belief. That's all it took for me. Someone who looked at a struggling mother in a toy store and thought, that could have been me. And then did something about it. This is Reality Voice. If this story felt like something you've lived, or something you could give, you're supposed to be here. Leave a comment. Tell me about the person who saw you when you were invisible, or tell me about the person you're going to see now. And if you're still here, still sitting with this, subscribe. Because these stories aren't about billionaires saving people. They're about people seeing people. And that's a power we all have. Who's invisible to you right now, and what would change if you really saw them?